So I've been watching the questions flowing in. So one interesting question that I thought I should just mention is that came from trying to figure out who asked the question. So there is actually this whole concern from non-technical professionals, right? Saying that we are not coders. We haven't come up through a career as programmers, but maybe people have come as business analysts or come up as project managers through the management rank at some point. They've switched over or worked in quality or other parts, or maybe even other shared services. How can this program, according to the question that I saw, how can this program help people who are non-coders get the maximum benefit in terms of learning and also set them on a path to have a career in blockchain and fintech? What are your answers to that?
So bear with me. I'll be a bit long over here. But there are two aspects of it. And we need to understand both the aspects. One, you walk into any IT company. It's not only the programmers which make things work. There are a lot of other profiles, other kind of roles that work along to make sure that you have a successful delivery to the customer. That's the end goal of IT company. It's not the programming. So that's what we need to understand. That this program is not teaching you only how to program. So that's the job of a developer. This program also has certain elements of doing development. But you will see there's a large portion of this program in which we talk about all the concepts of blockchain, all the major blockchains. How do you approach them? How do you work with them? And things like that. There are the foundational concepts without which neither a programmer can work, neither a project manager can work, neither an architect can work, neither a business analyst can work. You need all of these roles, no matter which technology it's in. So even they relate to blockchain as well. So and they all need to understand the foundations because this is a disruptive technology, emerging technology. Nobody's even aware of it. So unless you understand this, you cannot move ahead with any of the directions you want to move. Somebody might want to move to programming, somebody might want to move to project management, somebody might want to move to program management or do some like a business analyst. So there are different aspects that can relate to blockchain. That's one. And you chalk out your path, where you want to go, whether you want to be a programmer. And this program has elements for everyone. So it's a foundational course. That's what we're calling it. It's a foundations of blockchain and fintech. And so it brings the foundation to you.
Right.
Second, if you think from a blockchain point of view, there are two major events or two major directions in the industry today or across the globe, basically. One is definitely how to implement it for your use case. I want to implement for manufacturing. I want to implement for my automobiles. I want to implement for governments, banks, things like that. You need to bring that domain expertise and see how well you can adopt blockchain into your organization, into your industry, into your domain and things like that. You need not be a programmer. It's always good to have, it's nice to have a programming knowledge to make the maximum out of it. But you need not be a programmer to get good enough information so that you can move ahead and chop out your career going ahead. That's one aspect. There's a lot of things happening from an ICO point of view. That's a very emerging thing. Last year, in 2017, $4 billion were raised from ICOs.
So new coin offerings, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And there were 235 initial coin offerings last year, just 1 year.
So will this program teach people how an ICO actually happens?
Absolutely. So this will take our people, our audience, our candidates through this journey of what an ICO is, what's a white paper, how should you approach, why should you go for ICO?
For the benefit of the audience, ICO stands for initial coin offering. It's like an IPO of a equivalent of a cryptocurrency, right?
Absolutely. It might be cryptocurrency, it might not be.
Okay.
But eventually, the whole idea is that you can raise money based on your idea. You can raise money based on what you have to offer to your people and to your customers, to your partners and things like that. And build something on top of blockchain.
Yeah, got it.
And we are going to teach not only this, how to approach an ICO, but also to go through how to, maybe we have a capstone project where you create your own documents, how to bring your own ICO. So that's all a part of it. So there are a lot of things that you can do as part of this career in blockchain. And if you know programming, well and good. If you don't know, we will get you kick-started so that you make the maximum out of this.
Right.
And that's the whole idea.
Actually, so Samir, I think you have always had this view that there are two ways to navigate any of these programs. One is that you go down the coding path, but you can also go down the case study path. Can you talk about the case study path that you plan to follow? So if people joining this program, some of them might be hardcore technical people who want to pursue the programming path, but those who want to pursue the case study path, how will they go through this program?
So the focus of the program, fintech program, is largely to ensure that the business guys know technology a bit more, and then they know the new process like APIs and AI/ML. How do you use in your cases? So our focus is largely on creating use cases, at least on paper, to structure the whole process rather than actually coding. So the focus of fintech side is to teach you the banking side of the business, how the entire process can be automated, differentiated in the market. So the development will be very limited. I think the intention is not to make you develop. Intention is to actually take you to the idea about how fintechs think, how fintechs create new use cases. So for example, you may be a part of a bank, right? And maybe you are part of compliance team. You may not know how the changes are happening in the market. So idea is to take you there. If you are maybe part of credit team, and maybe in the credit team you have never seen other than manual operations of the entire credit process. So we'll teach you how some of the fintechs, let's say Zest Money, is underwriting the whole piece in a systematic way, and how the machine learning they are able to do right now to ensure that the previous cases when they were done, based on that learning, they are tweaking the process right now. Yeah. Just to give you the current way, is that typically the credit underwriting cycle or the logics are given to third parties, like some of the largest names in the country. They create a model, give it back to you, and then you run it for a year, and then you go back. I don't know, in the market where the changes are happening almost instantaneously, how would it work? So idea is to teach you that. It is relevant. If you are a board member of a bank, it will be relevant to you. If you are a CEO of bank, it will be relevant. If you are a software guy in a tech team in a bank, it will be relevant. All stacks will be relevant because this is the change which is happening.
Yeah. I think the point that you guys are making is that we are no longer in a world where ultra specialization of a narrow part of the whole process is enough. You need to know enough about the entire big picture. Yes. You still have to specialize in certain areas. You have to have expertise in a certain area, but just because an expert in a certain area doesn't give you the license to not know about the full stack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? And maybe just to link it to that, is that even if you become expert in an area now, let's say we do this masterclass or this session, foundations, and you become an expert, I would really urge people to realize that the situation changes every 6 months, every 3 months. Yeah. When I have been on this journey for now many years, and every time I meet a new guy, I met a guy called Bosky from Bonfleet Dayford yesterday. He taught me a completely new way of underwriting. I didn't know that. So I think what I'm trying to tell you is that the changes are so many that if you don't take the change now and you start going through the journey, you will not be able to reach anywhere.
Yeah. So this is an evolving process. So the landscape keeps on changing. So people have to understand this, that, and we all are going through this, that what we learn today might become, we need to keep on evolving on top of it. We need to keep on learning. So we cannot stop after this 4 month of program saying that I know blockchain, I know fintech. It cannot stop there.
Incidentally, just since you're going on this topic, there are questions that are coming around, how will I continue to learn after this program? So learning to learn may be one thing that hopefully you guys will be able to teach people.
Absolutely.
That how to learn more about blockchain, how to learn more about fintech, well beyond this, because by the time you finish the program, there'll be an innovation around the corner that has not yet happened.
Right.
It might happen 2 months after you finish. So this course can't even possibly offer something that is not yet available, but it will be available soon. Right. So the ability to learn these technologies on your own, master them on your own, pick up new things on your own, is that a skill set people can expect to learn?
Absolutely, they should. They will actually get that as part of this entire curriculum. The whole idea is that the whole idea of this program is to make the foundations and to show you a gate.
Yeah.
Put you on a path.
Put you on
the right path so that you can walk that. Because you have been equipped now with all the necessary concepts, knowledge, experience.
That's why it's called the Foundations program, I guess.
Foundation. That you can walk that path and chalk out your own career. And you will keep on, and the way industry is moving, we will obviously provide you the resources that you need to keep in your view, in your mind, so that you keep on going back to those and get more relevant information that impacts you.
Right.
I just want to bring that just learning blockchain, just learning fintech is not the end word. You need to integrate with so many other things. So you might be doing automobiles. So you also need the information about knowledge about automobiles to make an impact, or using blockchain or fintech within the automobile world. So it's an amalgamation of a lot of things that comes together. Yeah. But in fact, if you don't know about it, you will never get into it. So this is the beginning where you can get proper information, information about all the important concepts in an abridged fashion, step by step, so that you can make judicious decisions going forward.
So there are a lot of questions coming around, careers, right? I mean, and I'll give you some of the questions now because I think it'll be good to handle them. One question is around saying that, if I want to become an entrepreneur, how will this program help me? So one aspect of it, of course, I think, we are building linkages. For example, India Angel Network has already said that anybody who goes through the program and completes it successfully, if they are trying to build a company, if they want to create a company which they want to raise capital for, they will be here to mentor them. They'll be here. India Angel Network will mentor them, provide them chances to pitch to investors and raise money. Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. But tell us from the course perspective, how will this help entrepreneurs?
So as I mentioned before, during the start, it's the startups which are talking the maximum about blockchain. It's not the very large companies. They're also doing it, but it's primarily the entrepreneurs. It's the startups which are focusing and trying to bring the disruption in the market, because these are disruptive forces. And so in this program, when you learn about these technology, when you learn about cryptos, when you learn about ICOs, when you learn about smart contracts and creating your own use cases, it will fuel your mind with the knowledge, the domain knowledge that you have, and how to bring that onto the table. So when we have a capstone project, you're open to bring whatever project you do.
So whatever you're working on your startup idea, you can build that project.
You can bring that project, you can implement, we'll help you implement.
And you will mentor that.
We'll mentor that, we'll help you implement, and we'll provide the direction. And then on top of it, you mentioned India Angel Network is there to also provide their mentorship and also see if feasible, take it to the next level. But the entire ecosystem is there as part of this program, and everybody who's coming in will benefit out of it.
So I think Ritesh talked about the entrepreneurial side, the startup side. From big companies, so one interesting thing you notice about the partners, they're all very large global companies now, right? I mean, they were startups maybe a couple of years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but they've all become very big, right? It's Ripple or PayPal or Paytm, ICICI Bank, obviously, right? In the world of financial services, there seems to be, all the large players seems to be extremely wide awake on the need for fintech talent. So why is it that, I mean, he talked about startups, but why are these big institutions suddenly looking for fintech talent? Are they trying to change themselves? Or is it that if they don't change, they're going to have real survival issues? Is the future of banking, just like, Amazon destroyed the book physical business, is fintech going to destroy the banks? Is that how you see it? Is that the fear?
So I think fear is all real, right? So
it's a mild statement, okay? Fear is real.
Anything which is faster, cheaper,
better customer experience,
and also different. Anyway, sells, right? So I don't think you would like to use. How many of us have written a letter recently?
No, not for 20 years. Maybe 2 years of CD, but not 20 years of letters.
Yeah. So a lot of guys will say, okay, the jobs can't go away, so we need to support postal offices and all. But we use WhatsApp all the time. So and WhatsApp is not equivalent of postcard or letter, right?
No.
It's a real reaction on an immediate basis, right? So when the changes of terrain are so real, we know that this industry has completely changed, which is the postal industry has completely changed. The change is going to be which way going to happen on the banking side now. Look at the towers in BKC, right? Or any of the towers which exist. So, I mean, if you look at Hyderabad or in Bangalore, you will see back offices which are huge, which are running manual operations of somebody on site, right? So, all of these operations which are back office where somebody does some typing based on some screens, some of them will just go away, wither away, right? If you look at the roles which today exist, let's say there are product managers which are largely MIS guys, or there are a lot of credit officers just underwriting manually, or maybe compliance officers which are looking at some reports. All of them are actually doing some work which will go away, really. So the banks are realizing right now they're realizing that they may not need that many firepower. The other side is that the current employees, and I would believe that they should change now, but the current employees may not be keen to change because they may be right now paid well and they may not have any risk right now. So therefore they are not changing at all. But mindset in the outside world is changing. For example, when you meet a 23-year-old guy from, let's say, IIT Roorkee, and he says, I am building a framework for online lending, and you say, okay, he's just joking, he can't build it. A year later, he comes back and says, I've just built something, I got a 2 million funding for it. You realize, oh shit, the guy is changing, right? So the point is, the new models are created by the guys who take risk. And therefore, these organizations...
And they have no baggage.
No baggage. So if you look at the today's role, be it ICICI, they have a chief digital officer. Now, if you look at HDFC, they have a chief digital officer. Each of these officers are limited in nature. They don't have a large teams. Even if you look at embedded, let's say digital or lending teams of a bank may not have anybody other than the guys who are focused on branches and other processes. So each of them are needing people who can think differently, challenge the leaders, go back to a board and say, this is the new thing which we will do.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll be extinct.
No, absolutely. So I can speak for myself on this because, my experience, I know at least 1 dozen CTOs of banks in this country that I personally am friends with. And I can tell you that not one of them is sleeping well at night. And their primary fear is exactly what Samir said, that what has been working so far might vanish overnight in a matter of next few years, because the technology disruption is coming at an enormously fast pace and is changing everything. I mean, who would think that SBI would someday have to launch a wallet and spend money promoting it to compete like SBI Buddy, right?
Yeah.
Who would think that Google would come to a day that using Pays, they would have to consumer cashback? I mean, has anybody ever got money out of Google? I think Google Pays is the first example, right?
Correct.
The first time a consumer has got money from Google is Google Pays. So it goes to show that even the biggest players in the world, no matter how secure they are, no matter how successful they are, they're all feeling great degree of threat perception on fintech, which means that the people that will join this program, and that's why the partnerships are important, I want to assure and tell you, all of you, that people who are joining this program, on completion of the program, will be made available to Ripple, PayPal, Paytm, and ICICI Bank. And one of the main things they have told me is that we want to talk to the people who graduate from this program because we need talent very desperately, right? Now, that is one, I think, of the values of the program. Apart from the learning from guys like you with tremendous practitioner advantage and, of course, academic bent of mind, so the course will be great. But at the same time, at the end of the program, there is this whole other linkage to industry that, and people have asked about the question about opportunities. The opportunities are right there. And incidentally, the 2 more large fintech companies that we've not even mentioned yet that will probably come on board in the next few weeks because the association with this program is now increasing. Okay, I want to answer another question that has been asked. In fact, it's been asked in 2 different ways by 2 different people. One question is, who will give us a certificate? Second question is that, should we join a course for certificate because we really want to learn, and certificate is secondary? Right?
Absolutely.
So what is your view on this? Because, do you think certificates matter in this space? Or is it not even worthwhile? It's only the skill that will matter, and companies know how to separate certification from skill. So if you were to advise people that, hey, should I go after a certificate or should I go after learning the right thing from the right people? What's the trade-off?
So I'll take that.
What will employers value, in other words?
Yeah. So certification is just a vouch by somebody saying that you have undergone this training. It's just a vouch, nothing else. I tell you, if you have done one blockchain project, if you understand blockchain today, for example, you are a hot properties anywhere
in the world.
I keep on getting calls from New Zealand, Austria, you name it, that can I be associated with them? Just because of the work I have done in the past on blockchain. So I don't need a certificate to prove myself that I know blockchain. My work speaks about it. My knowledge speaks about it. So certification should be something which is secondary. Primary is to learn about what blockchain is, what fintech is, apply those knowledge, create something meaningful out of it, and showcase that to the world. You don't need a certificate for that. In fact, anybody can do that. But having a certificate on top of it will add value to it. So I would say that the first preference of the outlook should be to learn the subject inside out. So that you are confident enough to stand in front of your management, confident enough to stand in front of your investors, confident enough to stand with yourself that you can do it. Gain that confidence within yourself, so that you go ahead and disrupt some industry or something like that. So that's what is important for me.
What's your view, Samir? This space, certificates or skills or what? Yeah.
So I think I'll first talk about skills, and I have a bit of a background in teaching as well on fintech. So anybody who has been mentored by me in the fintech area till date, what they've come back is saying that their direction of work has changed. Some of them have started their own businesses as well, and come back that or maybe some of them were not doing too well as a fintech founder have changed their direction and created new values out there. So I think what has happened is this kind of intervention itself opens them to a new area of working, and that's a learning side of it. So one is that side. The second is very interesting is that though we are a startup, right? So this itself is a startup equivalent. So I don't think a startup equivalent will need a certificate from a major institute. Startup institutes, startup kind of certificates will come from a startup like us because that's more valued. So people still ask me, can you give me certificate? Because we are looking at certificate from that kind of institute, not from typical old world institutes where people are bookish. They're still teaching about equity and investment banking where the world has moved dramatically. So I think there's a mix of what I believe is truth, right? So
interesting point. So you're saying that academic professors versus a practitioner view is what today the practitioner view is basically what's becoming much more useful for employers and even for startups, because end of the day, academia moves at a certain pace. Because you guys are not academic professors, so you can say this, and you're proud of it, I guess. So
I'll give you one example. So I was actually teaching in one of the colleges about the same course. So one of the questions was asked is, where is the book? I said, this is what I've written. So who will check? I said, there's nobody who can check. I can only check. So the whole process is that it's getting evolved. There are not enough books, enough material. So I don't know how education institutes will take care of it because they start from book, but book has yet to be written. So I read the first material on the Indian fintech ecosystem. So that's how it is. You have to take the first lead.
And just to add on top of it, if you want to really have educational institutes providing, say for example, blockchain knowledge, it's extremely difficult because first of all, you need to codify that, how you should provide that information. And by the time you do that, blockchain has gone to the next level. And you will always be on a catch-up mode. So it's very difficult for an education institute to bring blockchain to knowledge to the people. And for example, right now, I'm writing a book on blockchain. I'm writing a couple of books. My publisher is behind me for last couple of months, asking me if I can figure out a reviewer and give it to him because he's not able to figure out. There were a couple of reviewers.
So you review your own book.
Exactly. So there are a couple of reviewers who actually started and they said we can't do this because it's getting too deep. So we have a really lack of talent, lack of people who knows the subject, and there's no proper venue to go and learn them. And I think that's what we are trying to do.
Maybe a side note on that. I believe that in this group, which has almost we'll have 200 people learning in this process. I believe that out of these 200 people, at least 50 would create their own companies and maybe come back and maybe out of them, maybe 5 or 6 will create a $1 billion company. I think this is the evolution because this is the first level where the things are really getting created, right? So we should see action here.
No, absolutely we should.
And I would love to take some sweat equity in that.
I mean, I'm sure they'll all need advisors for their companies and board members, so that will obviously help. So I'll just sort of start to wind up a little bit here. I think we are going to be ending in the next few minutes. We have 5 or 10 minutes to go. So there are some more questions. I'll just pick them up randomly at this point. People are clearly, some of the people who are writing questions, I see that they are aware of some of the events on the ground, like what Swift is doing with blockchain pilots and how it's gone. And actually I don't even know some of the things. Like for example, airdrops of tokens. Do you know what that is?
Absolutely.
I love question. In this process.
So there's a question about does the course cover topics like airdrops of tokens for a particular platform, right? And there's someone called Giridhar who wrote that question.
Okay, so
what is this?
So I think airdrops is a purely a ICO and a crypto language. So we are going to cover ICOs and cryptocurrencies in quite depth. So we're going to talk about the major cryptocurrencies, how do you do trading, how do you come up with an ICO, and as a part of an ICO, what is in pre-ICO, post-ICO, investors, airdrops, not only airdrops, bounty programs, and things like that. So they will be part of the program, obviously, from a knowledge and conceptual point of view. But just I'm sure if somebody's asking about airdrops, he is aware of the cryptocurrencies, but I'm also sure that a majority of the audience might not be. So just to give an idea what airdrops is, so typically when you come up with an ICO, and you're trying to launch your ICO, you might be in different stages. You might also might have done your ICO and you might be well established now. But to make sure that you have your right level of investors in place, or to bring those investors, do some marketing, you provide free tokens. you provide free tokens to your existing holders or to everybody who is interested in it, depending at what stage of ICO you are at, and provide the free token so that whenever the token gets listed on the exchange, you would be able to sell them eventually. So that's the whole idea, so that you get start associated with that ICO and that company by taking the free token. So that's a free token that normally ICO people who are launching, they provide to investors and to a whole set of people.
Right. So one interesting question that I can see, which I would ask you now, for a minute, stop thinking like people who are to lead the faculty, your lead instructors for blockchain and fintech. For a minute, stop thinking that way. Think like an employer. Yeah. Think as if you are coming in to recruit people from this program. Like you are, let's say, go back to your old life and say, I'm a CTO of BCB and I'm the lead evangelist for Microsoft and I'm coming to recruit people from this program. And the program is now done, let's say, right? At the end of the program. The question that I'm seeing is very interesting. It says that, people who have gone through the coding side of it and people who have gone through the case study side of it, the business professionals have done case studies, tech professionals have done coding-based capstone. Which of these people would you be more likely to hire?
I guess it's both, right? So let's say take a situation like we are hiring for a product head, right? Or I think I would love to hire a guy who's a pure product guy but knows technology as well. At least the framework, if not coding. And just to give you one very clear thing, which is I run my own fintech as well. So what I'm saying is that today people will not realize that despite being a CTO, I can't code. And the point is, you need to know enough to get the whole bandwidth, the full framework, but you need not code. Because for coding, you'll find people. But for the algorithm and the logic,
what to code is a harder question.
What to code? What questions to ask? You don't know, right? So that's a critical point, which is missing completely in the game. I can typically add more value to fintechs by asking these questions. That's what I do today.
See, we need to understand that you are getting into a job. If I need to hire somebody, you're getting into a job and you need to perform on that job. You need to work. Some few things are expected out of it. So when you get into a blockchain or any other technology kind of a job, you need not have expertise in all the technologies at the deep level.
Yeah, you can't. It's not even possible.
Humanly impossible.
Yeah. If somebody says I know everything in depth, I would suspect their sanity, right?
Exactly. So
kill him.
Absolutely. So you have project managers who do extremely well project management. They have some level of knowledge on technology, not deep knowledge. And they cannot program, they cannot develop, but they have enough insight to provide you proper direction or provide you ideas which might propel a different way of thinking. So if I'm going to hire, I'm going to see whether you have a deep knowledge in one of the areas and have good enough information on other areas so that you can build on top of it. Whenever you
deep in a few areas and broad in many areas.
Exactly.
That's the combination that always works, right?
Always works, yes.
And if you look at even the current founders of fintechs, I would say 60-40. 60% are all business guys, know technology well, but can't code, can't do all that. They depend on somebody else. So it's always a combination which works. Today, most of the founding teams are a mix of technology.
So then I would call real success if people come to this program from both sides, business and tech. Some of them come together as a team, form a startup, business and technology people, go to Indian Angel Network, raise money, and you get sweat equity in them. This is like the ideal scenario, right?
So in fact, the capstone projects will be like this. When we will do these face-to-face workshops, idea is to create your own lending fintech or a payment fintech. It will be a group of 5 or 4 or 10, or we'll have to create it together, and you will realize you suddenly will gel together and maybe create a new thing out there. That's the intent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm seeing one interesting question, which I will end with that maybe one or two more. It says that what about me? I'm a sales professional, right? What can a program like this offer to me, right? Is there a career in sales and business development that requires blockchain and fintech knowledge? I mean, I would say that clearly, if you want to be business development for Just Pay or Razor Pay, you obviously have to have a real understanding of fintech. That would be an answer, or
I'll take it more interesting, right? So today, if you look at it, partnerships which are happening between banks and the customers, they're no longer talking about what are the rates? Rates are okay, we will figure out. But they are talking about, do you have these kind of APIs, right?
Capabilities,
APIs. Yeah. Nobody's wanted to integrate at the front end. So do you have let's say, internet banking platform? Nobody talks about it. It's about, do you have that kind of API? What are the logics which exist on your side? How do you enable it? Now, if the sales guy does not know about these, he will just keep passing on to the tech guy. And you know what? The tech guy will pick up the business cycle and start running faster than you. So, if you are in sales of a bank, you better run. Because if you look at cash management, trade finance, any of the processes are all getting into tech world, right? So, there's end-to-end origination, end-to-end is tech-based, right? So, be aware of it. That world is changing. You have to be up ahead of it.
Yeah. So, business development, sales, I tell you, it's equally important to understand blockchain and fintech. Not only fintech, but technology, not as a whole technology to the depth level, but understand on a conceptual level what technology is bringing about the changes in their product and services to the customers. Until unless they convey that message to the customer, how will customer know about it?
Yeah, I think you're right. So if I look back on my own experience in the my career, last 20 years, is that there is hardly a sales professional who's done really well who is not sufficiently tech savvy. Right? It's just not possible anymore because your customers are going to be technology people. The buyers have become tech savvy. So as a seller, if you're not tech savvy, I don't think you have stand a chance of...
We need to understand this, that everything today in the economy and domains and industries is driven through technology.
Yeah.
It's a technology driven thing.
Yeah.
Until the time we associate and don't say go deep, associate ourselves with technology, it will become challenging as we move forward in our careers.
That's right.
So it's better to take that plunge now than later.
Yeah. If you look at the current banking world, or everybody is putting ads around digital and technology, right? You won't see any other ad. You talk about Kotak 811, it's an ad around technology.
Great story, by the way. Kotak 811 is a fantastic story. Yeah.
Superb. They have created a digital bank in India without calling one.
Yeah. They created a product simply by creating great customer experience around technology, right?
I would say great, simple. I think the customer doesn't...
I would argue that great is simple. There is no such thing as a great and complex.
Absolutely. The WhatsApp is a great example of...
Simplicity is great,
Simplicity is great.
Yeah. There was an interesting question that went by, Ritesh, I don't know if you noticed. It said that how could have we avoided Punjab National Bank fiasco using blockchain? And I think we should tell them that Ritesh and I have written an article in BC Circle, which came out last week, which you can go and look up as to how we could have avoided the PNB fiasco if you're using AI and blockchain.
It's completely possible to eliminate such things.
And I think in some sense, what we're realizing more and more as professionals is that human greed cannot be solved, right? There will always be 2 people in 2,000 people or 20 people in 2 lakh people who will be greedy and they will break rules.
Yes.
In some sense, machines don't have greed. That's the good news, right? So automation of this type gets us out of the greed domain. So a lot of these processes which are very sensitive, financially, potentially vulnerable, if you automate more and more, and I think blockchain and fintech are good examples how banking is increasingly becoming a tech automation game. Except for the customer experience, everything is tech automation. The so-called hollowing out of the back office, like you said, is nothing but automation of tech. And we talk about robotic process automation. I think in passing you mentioned that. You didn't use the word, but you talked about the concept.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, atomic transactions. Now, if we can put those atomic transactions on ledgers, which are integrated with all the other systems,
I mean, there's no human
and
touch.
You have fraud detection, sentiment analysis, live running on them, detecting any anomalies.
Yeah.
How do you think these things can exist anymore?
At least inside of fraud will stop.
Exactly. So we can eliminate all these quite easily by integrating technologies and emerging technologies like blockchain and things like that.
Right, and maybe I'll give you a very, very simple thing. I think while we talk about basic technologies, reality is most of the banks have not even adapted to integration between SWIFT and the core bank,
which is the Punjab National Bank case.
It is not just with Punjab National Bank.
With all banks. But
with all banks.
These guys were the ones that got the hit, basically.
Got the hit, but the point is risk exists. So today, if you look at, since banks are run by old people, old kind of thought processes, what happens is that they take some integration and say rest all is manual. There's hardly any focus on reconciliation, hardly any focus on detecting anomaly through AI ML. It's all about saying we will see it as it goes. So I think some of you who are in compliance angle of some of these areas, once you go through this process, you can add value in your organization. Say these 3 things can help you in change.
That's actually a great point, and I'm extending this a bit. What I realized, at least a couple of NPCI board, I know that since I'm part of it, there is a very clear overall we are seeing across the industry that in the future, if you want to insure yourself against fraud, your premiums will be directly proportional to how much automation you have or don't have. If you have a lot of manual processes, your premiums will be like up there, and you can't even afford to run the process at some point. So you will have to see as a bank how to get everything automated so your premiums keep coming down, because risk premiums be tied to how much automation. Is there blockchain? Okay, check. 1 premium discount. Is there AI and machine learning based,
I'll tell you my thought process.
Yeah.
I am fearing to put deposit in a bank which is not automated anymore, because if such a thing happened to my bank, I might fear that I might not get my money back when I need it.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I'll scare you further. No bank is fully automated. All banks have phenomenal number of systems which are not talking to each other all the time, and the risks exist today. So if some of you who come on board and start doing this fast in your organization, you can solve a lot of their problems by first understanding the problem. Most of the people will say there's no problem because they don't understand the problem. Okay, that's the easiest
ignorance can be
ignorance bliss, right? If you ask the same question to bankers today, maybe 2 months back, do you have a risk of this kind of thing? They'll say no, everything is working fine. I think as you understand more and more of, you realize that okay, so much of value which exists.
And where there's a problem, there's an opportunity, and that's really what.
Think about it, right? BKC has those towers. Those towers must be managing manual operations.
Yeah, very good.